Good morning. So, this is a general sharing I want to put out there. Um, Yet another morning, and starting my day, thinking about what to offer out via this channel and the evolution of reaching out and sharing something that I feel that in the future will become a tool for what the mainstream media and old guard simply cannot do. Um, Two totally different platforms, mainstream media and the internet. And the older generations, including probably my own, tend to lean towards passive consumption of the news versus searching out the facts first and then aligning the news that they receive with the quality of those facts. So I support people to spread the word, stick to your convictions, no matter how isolated you feel, or hemmed in, exiled, depressed, hopeless. First and foremost, do it for yourself, because included in yourself are the thoughts and feelings of those that you care for, dead and alive. Um, mostly mostly dead in my case. Most of my empathy uh, goes out to those that have been martyred all across the Middle East and here at home in the United States. Um, Death seems to interest me more so than life at times, because life is all too obvious, and death not so much in the sense of what it infers, um, like what's behind that curtain. I have some ideas based on personal experience, um, but it's all speculation, of course, because it's in the context of uh, hints and various intuitions, let's say. Um, so only the dead truly know. And what concerns me is the lack of encouragement, um, coming from even some independent outlets. Although I have to admit that their existence is encouragement enough in some cases. That is, if you've already got the spark and you're running with it. But for people who are isolated and don't really know where to go and lack encouragement to just begin, um, I'd like to model that with you. Um, and see where it goes. Um, a little snippet of concern that I have is people who may or may not be feigning criticism towards Israel, what lurks behind their supposed empathy towards the Palestinians, ulterior motives, peripheral attachments, and ego strategies to feign empathy and criticism in order to prop up simply the same regime but different. In this case, I'm referring to Tucker Carlson. He recently seems to have grown a conscience and has become highly, seemingly introspective of the world around him, and is demonstrating a sort of moral not outrage, because he doesn't really have any personal experience enough to garner the emotion of outrage. Palestinian fathers and mothers, orphaned children, they can experience and share outrage because they've earned it. It's a terrible way to access that emotion. It comes up in me in the form of a sense of pushing against injustice. Whenever I see injustice, it triggers something in me. Why? I'm not necessarily privy to that. It's an abstract thing that just happens. But the outrage is definitely there. I mean, I can attach all sorts of psychoanalytical pointers to the whys and what fors, but ultimately that would just be me personalizing it, which is neither here nor there. It's still pure rage. And that's something I've had for a long, long time, just in the sense of a trigger. Especially around lies, propaganda, when people just simply outright lie, and then they get what they want. They get the condemnation based on millions of people believing that lie. It's too easy. It's too easy to sin in this day and age. And I don't mean religious sin. I'm speaking about human collective sense of ownership, being a responsible adult, being mic checked by your peers. When the Supreme Court can't mic check you as President of the United States, you know that it's basically a race to the bottom of an empty oil barrel. It's the American empire comes from a long heritage of oppressive, dysfunctional patriarchal neurosis and psychosis. It's a mental illness that evolves and refines itself when it's left unchecked. And civilization suffers an undiagnosed psychopathy era after era after era, and until the priorities change from materialism, exploitation, invasion, assassination, uh, entertainment, and the mind and the mental health becomes the priority of civilization, nothing's going to change. The mind is the key. It's at the center of everything. And maybe that's for another conversation. I'm trying to get this video out this morning just to simply share and stay consistent with my aim with this channel, to build it and change a part of my life, actually, and see what kind of results I get through this exercise. It's also for my mental health, to know that I did it, and to know that it's out there. It's a form of ease. It helps my my daily mental health have a footing of sorts, to know that I'm keeping my promise to myself. So I'm going to read something I wrote around after I heard Tucker Carlson. In several interviews, he's become critical of Israel, and on the surface, you would think, well, good for him. He's growing up. He's gone from a reactionary, believe everything that you're told, or at least agree to believe everything that you're told, 15-year-old, to a young man who is leaving home and learning a profession, getting a job at McDonald's, so he can pay his rent and be his own man. We'll see. Time will tell. I think he is half stuck in his own web and half experimenting and seeing what the results are going to be, to see if he can actually leave home. You know, it's a dubious, at best, experiment. So I wrote, recognizing that Tucker Carlson is beginning to see and feel things, though absolutely no trust he'll become a better adult and actually understand that Judaism was lost long ago in the mid-1900s via the acceptance of the Balfour Papers, via the elite of the Jewry, who were simply politicians, profiteers, and general megalomaniacs, not followers of a disciplined religious practice whereby they consciously choose to refine themselves by putting lesser instincts and desires under the scrutiny of their scripture's tenets, morals, and common human rights principles. So when I say Judaism was lost long ago in the mid-1900s, I don't mean Judaism across the planet, okay? So don't clip this and use it as some sort of wide brushstroke representation of what I believe. All religion eventually fades away. History proves this. It's just, at least in my sense of things, it's a stepping stone. It's amorphic, transient, even. With AI developing at mind-boggling speeds, who knows what religion will look like in 100 years, 50 years for that matter. So many things happen, and as civilization refines its how the individual lives day to day, how they get their intellectual, emotional, and practical needs met day to day, religion changes inevitably. I mean, there's no way to protect religion as a competitor for immediate gratification of curiosity. Um, People are learning how to secure and nourish their own personal beliefs. It's becoming more existential and less about belonging to a group per se. Um, so Judaism was lost in Israel in the 1900s. And anyone who identifies with Israel as some sort of representation of the Jewish faith or uses it as a almost as a kind of a shield of sorts or identity marker. So I say a reactionary turned moral scrutinizer is often a furtherance of an extremist arc whereby a fascist becomes convinced they know more than knowing can permit, whereby their own character shortcomings armor themselves with wide brushstroke judgments, condemnations without discretion, and fervor without self-reflection, i.e. Nazi Germany vibes. Time will tell. So just keep in mind, whenever someone who was extreme right-wing converts and presents themselves as thoughtful, inquisitive, curious, and rational when they start to fact check what before they did not, and argue those facts, present those facts as a sort of a white knight syndrome of sorts. Trust that something's happening, but also trust that it could be that nothing is happening at all, as far as it being a good thing. What concerns me is that Tucker Carlson has not had the time to earn and gather the density that it takes to have moral convictions that are unshakable, unbreakable, unbendable, uncompromising, that whatever's happening to him could go several directions. And what I'm concerned about is that it will simply be fodder for opposing Israel from a Christian nationalist platform, which is ultimately the same inhumane nationalist mental illness as Israel is suffering under. Well, I use the word suffering very lightly here, in the sense that whatever is in the proximity of Israel suffers, including a lot of people who are living in Israel who are anti-Zionist, which I find to be very peculiar. that there are tens of thousands of dual citizens in Israel as well, who are against Zionism, which founded Israel, which controls and monitors and finances Israel, home and abroad. So what are they doing there? Is it just opportunist capitalism pursuits? You can do that in a lot of places. Is it that they're trapped, that they woke up one day and realized that they were in an apartheid nation, and the mortgage to their home is keeping them there? It's very possible. I know this happens in cults in the United States, where they get embedded, and ultimately there's a narcissism evolution where the person compartmentalizes their sense of right and wrong, picks and chooses what's appropriate, and chooses selfishness over conscience. And that's legitimate, although a personal crime of sorts, but it is a crime that leads many people to turning themselves in to the warden of themselves, and then leave the cult. They leave the cult, and they have to spend a certain undisclosed amount of time rehabilitating themselves and feeling a sense of shame and being humbled by looking back and acknowledging that that was rough, that was wrong, that was me. But what I'm more interested in is not what people, in that case, I'm not speaking about governments, I'm speaking about individuals. I'm more concerned about where a person actually is today, in the moment, not what they've done as a reflection of who they are now. Unless they are a static individual, in that they are not consciously going forward and mic checking themselves daily and truly alive in the sense of having a conscience, and working to have a better and better version of themselves going forward. Many people get stuck in like a petrification of sorts, like a roundabout with no exit, and they simply manifest from a particular day that may have been 30 years ago, and that day has not changed since. Fundamentally speaking, I'm not talking about the day itself, of course, but this is like more of a reverse Groundhog Day, where the day itself changes abundantly, but the person stays the same. Whereas in a Groundhog Day, the same day, the same events keep occurring, and the person changes. That is not the case of many, and I wish those people well, because that is a prison term that is both mysterious and deserves sympathy, but way in the background. It's not an excuse. It's not permission. It's not to belittle the outcome of someone who is experiencing that kind of mental condition, emotional condition. So just a warning out there that people like Tucker Carlson, they do not change overnight. They do not suddenly see the light. Even if he does see the light, whatever that light is, it takes time, years, to exercise that new foothold. And if he's claiming that he's a new man, he is not a new man. There's no such thing. Because nothing is for free. When you really change, it's not because you just suddenly did it. It's because it's happened. It's not something that you can choose to do. It's something you have to try to do and keep trying until one day you wake up and you notice that you've changed. It happens by trying. And this whole nonsense around don't try, do, it's a divide and conquer slogan. It's basically devised to say, do, not try. Because if you don't try, that's the first step, is trying, making the effort. And then one small effort builds upon another, and you start getting very small, tiny, almost imperceivable results. This whole idea of doing is hyperbole. It's nonsense. It's self-defeating. No one can just go against a lifetime of suspicious habits or lesser habits that one has and has noticed and wants to change. So, I mean, we're talking about in a small way something that resembles the laws of nature. Inner laws of nature resemble outer laws of nature. So, if you see an egret's beak that is 9 inches long, it's because it took millions of years for that to develop. The egret didn't wake up one day and just say, well, I want my kids' beaks to be 4 inches longer than mine is because the terrain that I'm on has changed because a volcano exploded and there's pumice around and I can't reach things anymore. And these eggs have to get in the program and figure it out fast. That doesn't happen. And so generations die, are born, migrate, carnivores come into the picture, steal the eggs. One pregnant egret gets out by some miraculous event, gives birth to the species again, and this goes on for millions of years, and the beak gets longer. I mean, think about it. Just think about it on the scale of time, and then superimpose that upon the human mind and the psyche and the character of an individual. There is no such thing as changing overnight or suddenly being born again. These things are fantastical events that mythologize and entertain people's presentations of themselves to others and society at large. But when the front door closes and the deadbolt is locked and Netflix is turned on and there's no cream for your coffee the next morning, the baseline sets back in. That part you never hear about, because the person's ego wants to present itself as a new version. But in behind the scenes, it's not happening. So in that presentation of the new version, maybe that will instigate frustration, that one part of the person suddenly realizes, wow, I'm really not living up to this, and people are expecting a lot more from me than I can deliver. And then the rift occurs, and either they disappear from the public eye for an indefinite amount of time, and someone else replaces them, like a lot of ministers and Catholic priests that have been charged with various crimes do, or they see it as a task to actually be the words, and slough off the extra hype that their excitement has put out, and really get down to business. So tie your camel, just watch, and be wary of people who want to steal the moral outrage that is legitimate around the Palestinian genocide, as if somehow they're a legitimate defender of human rights. Tucker Carlson is not a defender of human rights. I suspect there's something else going on, that it's a kind of a evangelical blame our highest hope for our lowest dope sort of situation, where I'm sure that the evangelical Zionists, at the end of the day, this thing's going to turn on its head, and their disappointment that Jesus isn't here yet. He's at a bus station that's set in prehistoric times. So there's no bus coming because they haven't been invented yet. But for some reason, there's a bus station. No one can explain that. It's a mystery. Bus stations work in mysterious ways. Have a good day.